President Trump, he's searching for his fourth national security advisor. After John Bolton resigned this week, Bolton, a hard-nosed hawk, and the nationalistic, deal-focused president disagreed on a number of foreign policy issues, from Afghanistan and Iraq to North Korea and Iran. There were also clashes with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who was smiling when he took questions about Bolton's departure. The Wall Street Journal notes that Bolton's exit, quote, immediately empowered Pompeo, who has sweeping influence in the administration. And the New York Times observes that Mr. Pompeo has navigated Mr. Trump's choppy presidency without capsizing, keeping himself in the good graces of a notoriously fickle president. And you've covered the State Department, you've covered the White House to this day. Is this not only a story about Bolton going, but Pompeo rising?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you referenced the smile. You look like a Cheshire cat. And
why?
Because he had just won. There has been a power struggle between Mike Pompeo and John Bolton going back almost from the beginning, but definitely heated up over the last 8-9 months or so. They disagree on many. They actually agree on a number of things, but Pompeo is much better than Bolton could hope to have been at getting the president's ear and kind of getting in there first and getting having Trump's argument end up sounding more like Pompeo. They at the end, both Pompeo and Bolton wanted the president to be harder on North Korea and harder on Iran than it looked like he might be going to be, but the breaking point appears to have come over Afghanistan, where Pompeo and Bolton had opposite views.
Does this become a deal presidency on foreign policy? Is the president now ahead of 2020, looking for a deal with Iran, looking for a deal with North Korea, with China on trade?
It would seem so. I mean, the people I've talked to in the administration who are directly involved say small bore deal with China, some sort of take home with Iran and North Korea. The thing that'll be interesting to me is what he gets on Iran, because it's not going to be terribly different from what the president with what Barack Obama got, if it's anything at all. Ann knows this well, I would imagine. There's not too many ways to slice this. I want to say one thing on Pompeo, who I covered in the House. He seems to view his role as Secretary of State as helping the president achieve what he wants to achieve within a context that makes sense for America. And that might sound hokey, but I don't think Pompeo is there to instill his own foreign policy.
He's not an ideologue, you're saying?
I don't know about that. What I'm saying is I think he knows that the president is the president. He always talks about his mission set. That's what he says, is my mission set to serve this president as best as I can. So he takes what he thinks Donald Trump wants to do and helps him achieve that within that context, whereas I think, from what I understand, Bolton was trying to redirect the president's instincts, which the president, as you guys all know, he hates.
It's absolutely right. It removes one of those kind of final guardrails around this president's instincts on foreign policy. I can't help but think, as we're kind of setting the table here, that this, taking it back to the discussion about 2020, actually sets up a really unique way for former Vice President Biden to draw a contrast, having been the vice president, having had significant foreign policy experience. It provides him a way to draw a stark contrast between himself and President Trump that no other candidate on that stage can.
And what did you think about the foreign policy discussion at the Democratic debate? They talked about Afghanistan a little bit, but how are they going to make that case? Is it Biden talking about allies more? Is it talking about nationalism as a negative thing?
I think we're certainly going to hear both of those things happening. Again, I think this is a singular issue where Biden can really lead. I would expect to see his campaign lean more forcefully into that narrative as we kind of see what the fallout is from Bolton's departure and what kind of direction President Trump brings foreign policy in next.
Yeah, I think that's right. That is Joe Biden's super strong suit in this ongoing primary. The thing about Pompeo is, we think he has political aspirations. We just don't know which political aspirations come first right now. So,
is he going to run for Senate or wait to run for president in 2024?
Or governor.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what he's going to do, but what he does need to do while doing that is keep Donald Trump behind him. So he needs to have this relationship. So he's going to be working within the framework, which I think Jake described accurately, but without alienating the president, because he's going to need the president. I will say on that thing in the briefing room, I've never seen a victory lap like that in quite a while. But the Senate Republicans are going to miss Bolton, because this is one area where they really break with the president. And there was a lot of, sympathetic statements about Bolton on the Hill. John Bolton was a strong guy. He knew where the risks were, which are somehow sort of a veiled cut at the president.
He worked, Bolton would work the Hill, and he was a good point of contact. I mean, Bolton is, yes, he's an ideologue, but he comes from a different era and a different political world.
And he's his own man. I mean, you think about Bolton, this longtime Washington lawyer. I was texting with him, talking to him this week. He said, "I'll have my say in due course."
Yeah.
In a book.
And I think also
in a book.
For now, he's gone back to his PAC, and he's going to be giving money to Republican candidates, and he's got a perch.
You think he breaks with President Trump?
I mean, eventually, yes. I think they disagreed on too many things to begin with. I don't think I don't have the sense at all that he's interested in having a Scaramucci moment by any stretch.
Maybe on policy grounds.
I'm sure he will point out a number of places on policy grounds where they had disagreements and why.
I think the other thing with Bolton, why Senate Republicans are so worried, is because a guy like Bolton understands process. The NSA job, National Security Advisor job, is a process job, right? I mean, it helps the president. It's supposed to be a process job, right? I mean, it's supposed to help the president make decisions within a traditional kind of process-oriented foreign policy world. And something that Bolton understood as being ambassador to the United Nations under George W. Bush and having a history in Washington as a kind of a foreign policy operator. Now, it's kind of the guardrails, as Juana said, and the guardrails are off. And that's a scary thing for members of Congress who love nothing more than predictability when it comes to their chief their commander-in-chief.
And they differ with Trump on Russia, certainly,
for
in
sure.
some of these other areas. And
So did Bolton.
right. And that's where,
True.
And that's one of the few areas where they've been willing to sort of speak out. And you heard Mitch McConnell talk about that and Lindsey Graham. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Are they making any recommendations, Capitol Hill?
I presume they, probably not recommendations, but maybe slyly kind of getting behind some of the people they want. I'm not really.
Bolton, Pompeo is largely driving the discussion around who will replace Bolton.
And there was even talk of having Pompeo possibly do the job.
Which the president has taken off the table, the Kissinger model. I never thought that was quite real, but what is very real is that Pompeo is pushing some names who are not household names for most people outside Washington foreign policy circles, and that will mean that Mike Pompeo has more influence going forward, not less.
Even Democrats, Speaker Pelosi issued a statement saying it was a shame in a way that Bolton was going.
Well, I don't think Nancy Pelosi agreed with John Bolton on Iraq or perhaps any other foreign policy decision he had ever made. But again, it's a way to knock the president and his process.
It is kind of funny to watch the left embrace Bolton a little bit there at the end.